What's really cool with like the sperm whales, it just sounds like someone's like knocking on wood, and then as they're getting like closer to their prey, they'll click quicker and it'll be like kind of appear as like this buzz, and it's just so cool to listen to. Their vessel was, I think, the Logos Hope. It's a library ship. Like, what more of a wholesome way could you live volunteering than going around the world supplying books to young children? Like, it sounds super cool.
Ahoy ahoy to all you smooth sailors out there, and welcome aboard the Deck Tales podcast. I'm your host and captain, Sammy Catlin, and this is where we dive headfirst into life at sea. From stunning destinations to unexpected storms, our guests have stories that will make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even shed a tear. Whether you're a seasoned sea dog or simply curious about life on board, Deck Tales is your boarding pass to a world of nautical narratives. My guest today is Miss Sara Bisset. She spent the last decade working offshore, listening for whales, watching for dolphins, and occasionally shutting down multi-million-dollar operations, all in the name of marine conservation. She's a Marine Mammal Observer, Passive Acoustic Monitoring operator, a proper environmental science nerd, and soon-to-be deck officer, calling in from the wilds of Scotland. If you've ever wondered what it's actually like to protect whales at sea, you're going to love this one. So let's anchor up and dive right in.
Hello!
Hello, Sara!
Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Just takes a second.
I need to figure out how to hear you in that case. Okay.
How about now?
Yes! I did it. I changed the setting.
Well done! Not just an MMO/PAMO.
You know what? You know what is that during COVID, everyone got really good with the whole like Zoom and Teams thing. And I was like...
Not this guy.
I was pretty much still just working away offshore during that time. So like while everyone else was doing their like daily meetings and Zoom and everything, I managed to kind of avoid all of that, which I was quite happy about. So and yeah, I've barely had to use it since.
Because you're always off on offshore out at sea.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're a hands-on kind of woman. You're not normally sat behind a desk.
So.
You're out there. Doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think, where is it that you're calling from today? Where are you based, Sara?
So I'm living in Lossiemouth, which is on the Moray coast of northeast Scotland. So it's essentially between Inverness and Aberdeen. That's the best way to describe it. People tend to know where those places are, at least.
But when I spoke to you last week, you were staying at your boyfriend's.
Yeah. So this is the Isle of Lewis, which is the Outer Hebrides. It's a nice big island on the west coast of Scotland. Very beautiful here. Yeah.
Well, so considering you're so Scottish, I mean, you're one of the most Scottish people I've had on the podcast. I understand you perfectly, Sara, but
that's great. Good to hear.
I mean, I went to a music festival last week. It's just cooling down a little bit. It's still very warm down here.
Yeah.
But last week I went to on the Friday just gone, British Summertime BST Festival. And I saw the trifecta of old school talent, which was Van Morrison, Cat Stevens.
Oh yeah.
Love a bit of Cat Stevens, and Neil Young as well.
Yeah.
And prior to going to it with my friends, we were in a pub, as you do, drinking outside the venue because, of course, they jacked the prices up. And I got chatting to this Glaswegian couple, and they both really... Well, I really struggled. They had a few drinks.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of Americans listen to this show. And if they'd have had them on as a guest, or if they'd have heard them, they'd have tuned out straight away. I kind of just had to nod along at certain points. I was just like, yeah, I like him too. Big fan.
Yeah.
So you're up in Scotland. You've been avoiding me for a good 7 or
I have been. I've been
5 or 6
doing
months.
a really good job of dodging.
Because I I'm just looking at my notes here. Look, I've made a little notebook as well. This is what I'm doing in my spare time, and you can see I'm using a green screen. Look, because it's invisible
Yeah.
underneath. I messaged you in February, the beginning of the
Oh,
year.
wow.
I saw,
Yeah.
I see people like they comment or they like, and as soon as something like that,
Hmm.
I tend to just because it's early days still. I kind of
Yeah.
pick things up and I'm like, oh, what do they do? And then I immediately kind of go, I'm a bit of a Ash Ketchum, like Pokemon.
Yeah.
Got to catch them all. What do they do?
Yeah.
What are their deck tails? I have to know.
Yeah. And
So
there's so many as well, so many different roles at sea, and so many you've never even heard of, never would have even imagined existed, kind of like
exactly.
mine,
Yeah. But that's it. I think that's what I love about doing this. It won't get old, unless, of course, I was only ever interviewing people in your position. If I only ever
Yeah.
spoke to, was it MMOs and PAMOs, or we'll get to
Yeah.
that in a bit. But I'm just trying to play it off like I know it is exactly what you do because I'm not even referring to your name by its full title. I'm using the acronym.
Yeah.
Go me. But so
Yeah.
I had a note to say thank you so much first of all for just agreeing to come on because I reached out to you a while ago and I know obviously you've been back and forth between being out at sea. People just assume sometimes I have an endless list of people that are just willing to come on the show. No, it takes time, people. I have to do a bit of pestering. I have to, follow up a lot of people. Sometimes people say that they will be a guest on the show. They book a time with me and then they just don't show and I never hear from them again. I also want to say thank you so much because not only did you agree to be on this show, but you've gone ahead and you've gotten a brand new router and a new laptop just for the occasion.
Yeah.
Wow. What did I do?
Microphone. Yeah.
You got a new mic as well.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's a cheap thing, so we'll see how well this provides. But
All right. So I do have questions. Obviously, I'm not just going to pretend like I didn't do any research. Of course, I didn't.
Yeah.
But because I don't want to be the one just doing all the talking here, Sarah, please tell us what it is that you do. And try to sum it up in a way that a novice would not understand. Not like me, obviously.
Yeah. Okay. So I've worked at sea for the last 10 years as well, a couple of things. Mainly, my role has been as a Marine Mammal Observer and Passive Acoustic Monitoring Operator. And later on in 2021, I undertook the training towards qualifying as a deck officer. Still to qualify, still to do my oral exam. But yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about Marine Mammal Observer, which you might hear me shorten to MMO, and Passive Acoustic Monitoring, PAM. So essentially, there are lots of offshore activities which generate a lot of noise, which could be harmful to marine wildlife. Examples are oil and gas exploration and wind farm construction. During that, they're piling the foundations of the wind turbines into the seabed. There's various other noisy operations at sea. For example, there is unexploded ordnance, which basically old World War II bombs that need to be made safe before there can be like construction of the offshore wind farms, for example.
I wouldn't like that job.
And another one which will be used quite often will be construction of like new ports and this kind of thing. So basically there'll be some legislation or some like kind of permit or maybe environmental impact assessment, or perhaps it'll just be the company who are doing the work that they recognize that this activity is noisy and could harm marine wildlife. So depending on which criteria it fits into, if it's law that we need to be there or the client just wants us to be there, we'll be on board and our job will be to either visually observe for the marine wildlife or acoustically monitor for the marine wildlife. And we're doing this basically so that we can advise the client on how to best go about avoiding harming the marine mammals, but obviously also so we can spot them and we can say, hey, there's some marine mammals in the vicinity. And depending on when during the operation we see the marine wildlife, we might have to delay the beginning of operations, or we might have to stop the operations. So this really depends where in the world you are, what kind of mitigation. It's mitigation really, what kind of mitigation is required. So the main part of the job either is the visual or the acoustic monitoring, but we do also have to do a lot of reporting that goes along with that. We have to log like the environmental conditions, log our sightings, log our effort, and obviously advise the clients. So that's, in a nutshell, what a Marine Mammal Observer and panel operator
so
do.
You've said clients a few times. Who are the clients?
Yeah. So the clients will be, depending on the type of work that's happening, right? So if it's oil and gas exploration, that could be any of the big oil and gas players that you see. And if it's the wind farm construction, that's often an energy provider. So a lot of the energy providers that used to give us, our gas and electricity, they're moving across to offshore wind farms and obviously onshore wind farms, but I know nothing about those ones.
But it's mostly, I'm guessing, underwater drilling for oil.
We actually don't come into the underwater drilling so much. I think the noise that's generated from the underwater drilling isn't the part that generates the most noise. It's actually the exploration side of things. So
really?
when they're searching for the oil and gas,
that's surprising.
They've changed the language these days. So in the past, we used to refer them as seismic air guns, but the word gun kind of, they're thinking, oh, people might get the wrong image from the word gun. It sounds, scarier than worse than it is. So, but essentially, there's a series of these air guns in the water, and they kind of shoot compressed air at the seabed, and the reflections from this air that bounces back, they're able to pick up the reflections, and with their hydrophones, 8 kilometers more of hydrophones they've got towed out the back of the vessel. And, the clever people who process this data are able to image what underneath the layers of the seabed look like, so they can identify features that would tell if there's oil and gas present, potentially oil and gas present. Wow. So that's really the bulk of it with oil and gas exploration, but there are also different types of geophysical sources that will be employed to go out to sea with. It's just the air guns are kind of easier to talk about because there's so many different sources, so different types.
I should say, for the record, I don't think I've addressed it yet, but Deck Tales isn't always just going to be cruise ships, folks, okay? I've got to diversify. And if this is boring you, then fine, go away. It's not boring to me. I find it fascinating because I wrote a book that hasn't been published, and I didn't touch on any of the stuff that you basically talked about, but a lot of stuff I read really haunted me with regards to marine conservation being disrupted. Like, for example, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but cruise ships are affecting whale migration patterns and things like that. But I just wanted to let people know that this wasn't something that I was just going to talk about indefinitely. Just cruise ships is not what Deck Tales is about. We're opening the doors for more people to come forward. It's a new season of Deck Tales. So with your constant going back and forth, how long is each contract? Is it contract-based work, I'm assuming, that you do?
Yeah, so I work completely freelance, and basically I go about getting my work. There's various agencies. Some of them, they primarily take marine mammal observers and panel operators. Some of the other ones, they might also look for people who do different positions offshore too. So it'll be a case of just emailing out these different agencies and saying, hey, I'm available. Have you got any work right now? Or, if you've been doing the job for a little while, they will start to contact you and say, oh, we need someone. So that's how I go about getting the work. And it's all project based. So in the past, I used to find there was a lot more oil and gas exploration, which would go on for months and months at a time. Even some projects could go on for a year and a half more. And then you could go back for rotations, which was really great. And offshore, on these vessels, they tend to do like maybe 4, 5, 6 week rotations. So when you're lucky enough to be on a job with rotations, you do about that duration, and that's the time you'd get off too. If you're doing just you might just be hired for just as long as the project lasts, right? So maybe they're expecting it'll just be 8 weeks or something, so you'll just be hired for that duration. But you could be unlucky and encounter some lots of bad weather. They might have lots of operational issues, so that 8 weeks could easily turn into like 11 weeks, 12 weeks, 14 weeks. And
so
then,
what's been your longest? What's been your longest contract?
My longest as an MMO has just been around 3 months. I say just because for an MMO, that's actually quite a long time. But I do know that in the merchant navy, and especially on cruise ships, people work for, like the standard is like 9 months, is it? So very short in comparison. Yeah.
Is there much competition in your role? As you got this agency as well, you are asking them, hey, or I'm free. They're like, well, we've got so many people, Sarah, at the moment that are asking for work and there's just not enough projects on. You're going to have to miss out on this, or, is there like, I don't know, is there a pecking order? How does it work?
Yeah, so I think definitely when you build up experience after you've got so many projects under your belt, you will be asked back, because you know the job, the agency knows that you know the job, that you're not going to cause any, incidents, any trouble, this kind of thing. Maybe the client also knows you too, because you've been involved in so many projects with them also. So experience does help. Certainly for newcomers in the industry, I think it can be very difficult for people to get their first job. Sometimes people might end up accepting rates that are much less than the standard for the job. Or I recently heard about someone paying their own airfare to get to the project.
Just to get their foot in the door.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people will do the training because it's quite cool, really, isn't it? Getting paid to essentially go watch for whales and dolphins. Obviously, it's not just like that, right? There is work to it, and it's getting better. But sometimes in the past, the clients weren't too keen on MMOs and having to stop the operations and that kind of thing. So it's not just as fun as it might sound like watching for marine mammals, but it is quite an attractive job to a lot of people. So a lot of people will do all the training and certificates, and then they'll find, oh, I actually can't get my foot in the door because there are so many people. And I think a lot of people do stick with it, and because it's freelance, you can dip in and out if you want to as well. So I do find that I'll come home from a project, and then after so much time off, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, okay, could do getting back to work now. Just can I get itchy feet, really? You know, people are working 9 to 5.
That was going to be my next question. Like when you're working 3 months max on a project, and you're off for how long before you're on the next one?
It really just depends, right?
Yeah.
If I'm just doing it project to project basis, like this year's been a bit of a weird one. I probably would have worked a bit more, but after I finished my cadet training actually in January, and then I took a job, an MMO job in March. I took April off because I had some training, and then I was back to work in May. And then I had some holidays and stuff at the end of June. So it's kind of ended up with me like having 2 months off, which is it's totally great actually, having the summer off. But everyone really does work a 9 to 5. So you might have the free time to kind of go off and do whatever you want to. But if you want some company, you've got to either chase down your friends who work offshore, who generally will live all around the world. Probably half of them are on projects anyway. So you do just get a bit like, oh yeah, I could do with getting back to work, just have some kind of like, routine. And, you miss the sea, right? I miss the sea. I miss the wildlife, the sunrises, the sunset. It's just a kind of like routine, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But to look back, before when you asked about finding the work. As a freelancer, you do spend a bit of time, like, emailing companies, updating your CV, and maybe you'll have an email in, it'll be for this job that you really want to go to. You'll be like, oh wow, I've not been to that place before. That sounds like a really great project to be on. So you'll drop everything, you get your email, you're like, oh yeah, I'm interested, you send your CV, and you might never hear back from that
Yeah,
one. But
yeah. I was just thinking that you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You must be putting your feelers out to multiple projects.
yeah, you do have to. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly would be nice to have loyalty to
Mm.
one agency, and I think a lot of people do. I do think though there's been like tax changes recently, but I do think now if you're self-employed or like freelancer and you work with like exclusively one agency, it kind of looks quite bad from a tax perspective because it looks like, oh, you're working for just this one company, you should be
Yeah,
employed by them.
yeah, exactly.
So speaking to my other freelance friends, they tend to work with some different agencies just to, keep it from arising where, there might be some suspicion and, they might be getting into trouble for something that's, not their intention and this kind of thing.
Definitely. So you get
Yeah.
to, when you do go out on projects, I'm assuming you go everywhere and anywhere. You're not just going to the same places every time.
Yeah. I'd certainly still like to get out and experience some new places. Definitely, there's always a lot of work in the North Sea. So the
Oh
North
yeah.
Sea, is always guaranteed, right? So there's always projects there. And for different reasons, different people like different things. Some people like to be close to home and they'll be happy to take these North Sea projects. I
Is that the
certainly get a
roughest
bit
part of the
of
world?
I wouldn't say it's the roughest part of the world, but it's probably one of the rougher places that you would have this kind of work ongoing continuously. Yeah.
I mean, for like rockiness.
Yeah, it can in the North Sea as well. When the weather picks up, it like really picks up and it's really quick. Like it can be almost like flat cam, and you'll see that weather's incoming, and then within a few hours, that's it. It's really picked up, and you're like, wow, how can things change so quick like that?
Mm. When you're not trying to get work for your next job, when you're not
Hmm.
working, what are you doing? Do you have another job, or do you just
Hmm.
sit around?
So it's a good question. Yeah, I am addicted to studying, right? So one of my friends wanted to have like an intervention for me because I just can't help but like sign up for another course. I'm already thinking like, okay, so in the future I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. Before I started doing my cadetship, I knew that I wanted to do it. So when I was away working at sea, I'd already bought some of my books. So I was, getting ahead, doing a bit of reading, that kind of thing. Just want to know
You,
like a
yeah,
little bit about a lot of things.
yeah. But
Um,
you go to
but
classes and
yeah,
courses all the time. You're like, oh, that sounds
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
So a lot of it will be like online study because if
Yeah, it's
you
there.
are working at sea, it's difficult to attend. But yeah,
Hmm.
I'm still enrolled, so obviously I've got to get my studying done and pass my oral exam for the cadetship. But I've been enrolled in a HNC engineering course for a little while. It's all online,
Mm.
but I need to hurry up and get that done before my deadline comes. So yeah, but so these things when I'm home, there'll be a bit of that. There'll be a bit of travel to see my friends who are dotted all over the place because they're mostly friends from sea. And yeah, I love to get cooking. It's something I miss when I'm at sea. Is like I love the majority of food offshore. Like I've been so lucky to be on ships that have had amazing cooks and catering departments, but you do start to miss just cooking yourself. So when I'm home, I love to cook and yeah,
What
just
kind of,
even
sorry, what kind of ships are you actually on? You obviously understand that most people I've talked to are on these
yeah,
massive cruise
yeah.
ships with catering through the roof. So and
Mm,
thousands of people. I'm assuming you're on ships nowhere near that same size. So how many people are we
yeah.
talking on your ships on average?
Probably around maybe like between 30 and like 70 people. However, some really huge construction vessels can have like, a couple of hundred people on board.
Mm.
But yeah, say maybe like average like 40, 50 people. Go with
That sounds pretty cozy though. I like the
Yeah,
idea of,
yeah,
meeting everyone and knowing everyone, and
yeah, yeah.
you feel like you get some camaraderie with that. When you're hosting
Mm,
game shows for 1,000 people one week, and then the next week it's another 1,000 people, it just becomes a
yeah.
blur, and you're just going through the motions of making people happy, but you
Mm,
forget, like, I don't know, just take a beat for yourself and form some genuine connections because you go on autopilot. But if you're in close proximity with a smaller group of people and you're just doing your job, it must be nice to have that familiarity with the same people, the same select few people that you can build a relationship with, if you like.
yeah, it definitely is. I've kept in touch with so many people
I
I've
was,
I've met at
yeah,
sea, and
I bet.
you might not necessarily have like a close friendship while you're there on board with them. There's been some times where I've been on board with someone, and they've been in, maybe they're marine crew, right? They're, maybe say they're like the ETO, so they're doing all the electrical technical stuff. And this, when I was Marine Mammal Observer, you wouldn't really have much reason to interact. And maybe you'd pass in the corridor, say hello, but so you'll see them, and then maybe a few years later you'll be on another project or back in the same ship, and you'll see them, and you're like, familiar face, and it's just, there's something really nice about that. And I think that's kind of sums up like working at sea. You've been through this same experience, shared experience on this one vessel,
Hmm.
this one project, and you've met the same people and this kind of thing. But yeah, the majority of my friends are people I've met at sea, and it's kind of turned out that way. Obviously, I've got my friends from university and people I've met at home, but I think the majority of friends that I kind of talk to on a daily basis, they will be people I've met at sea, and it is because that's kind of like becomes your bubble. Is these people with the shared experiences with you and the shared kind of lifestyle and this kind of thing.
Well, it's very
Yeah.
close living, obviously close knit living. To pass the time on those long, dreary days at sea, you must be coming up with all sorts of jokes, pranks, games, japes, all that sort of thing. What about, like, in my mind's eye, I just picture you on a small vessel, and you're all playing one of you's got the accordion going, and you're singing sea shanties. Have you got a favorite sea?
Yeah.
Have you got a sea shanty, like your go-to karaoke song?
Unfortunately, I don't, but it's something I think about often, that I need to actually find a sea shanty. And yeah,
Well, what's that one?
terrible singer, but that doesn't matter.
Not a C, not a C. What's that one? That my niece tried to get me to sing. Oh God, it had like a foghorn, like at the
Oh,
start.
yes,
Do you know what
yes.
am I talking
They have
about?
that in all the TikTok videos, when
Yes.
they're talking about the North Sea. Yeah.
Oh, that is it. That was it.
Yeah.
Did it have a song? Can you sing for us?
Oh, I have absolutely no idea.
Ah,
I think I I think people were worried I was going to sing one time. Actually, we were on a seismic vessel, and we were working in a country, and the country had just updated their visa requirements, right?
somebody left the seismic air cannons on. They said, no, that's just Sarah. She's singing.
That's Sarah, yeah. Not quite that bad. No, the actually a lot of these ships still have like bands. So the crew that'll come back
Yeah.
again and again. So that's one great thing about these offshore vessels, is that they have really great welfare funds. So the oil and gas companies, if they've done a good job, they've hit target, they've got the job done by a certain time, they'll give them like a big pot of money for welfare. So it's up to the crew to decide what they want to do with that money. So
Mm.
a lot of these vessels will have music rooms. So they might have like a weighted like keyboard, they might have drum kit, like electric drum kit, guitars. And so the regular crew, some of these guys, well, I say guys just because it usually has been men that I've worked with, but take guys to mean any gender, of course.
Yes, yes.
So these the crew members will form a band, and it came to Christmas time, and the crew had been stuck on board for several weeks because of this visa issue, and so they were going to play some nice music for Christmas. And they said to me, "Oh, Sarah, it'd be really nice if you could come and you could introduce, you could stand there and say something." And yeah, exactly. And I'm like, oh no, like maybe some people think I'm quite bubbly and friendly, but doing this kind of entertaining thing is like not something I have any experience of at all.
It's the hair.
So I did. I introduced, and and I swear everyone was like ready for me to sing, and I was like, oh god, no, like run away as soon as I was done talking. Like, okay, drop the mic, run, get out of there before anyone expects me to sing.
For the audio listeners, I just said it's the hair. But, she's got lovely red, vivacious hair, which, suggests that she is indeed a lively, outgoing, extroverted sort. But that's nice. Sometimes just to front people. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. On the subject of musicians and all of that stuff, I don't know if you saw it yet. This will probably come out after it's been taken off of Netflix. I don't know when I'm going to get round to it, to be honest. But on TV, the show This Morning on ITV. This morning was on this morning. I was watching it, and around 11 o'clock they were discussing the Pope cruise, and they had the female cruise director and the passenger who did not poop in a bag as guests on the show. And one of the things that she said that wasn't in the documentary on This Morning was that one of the things they did to keep the guests entertained during that time where they were just dead in the water was they did their stuff, like the games, the bingos and whatever they could. But they also put on a crew talent show, and one of the acts who brought the house down was one of the firefighters who put out the smokestack because it was all on fire. And, he played and sang on the guitar and brought the house down, apparently, which I thought was very nice. But, you've got people with different strings to their bows and all capacities on board. That's what I like about it. Mm-hmm. But so you've your longest contract, let's go back, was 3 months. What's your favorite memory or encounter with marine wildlife during your time? Have you had one that sticks out?
Yeah, there's so many. It's difficult because
two.
Like every top two, okay, that's great. I can do top two, okay. So I will go with recently I was on a project where we encountered a species of beaked whale. And what's special about that, so beaked whales are toothed whales. They've got nice big beaks, and they're quite elusive species. And this is mainly because they are deep divers, so they can dive thousands of meters below the surface to hunt for their prey. And this generally means that they're far out to sea, often in areas where there's not much marine traffic. So maybe there are lots of these whales out there, but there's just not really the people out there to see these whales. And
they rarely
because
surface.
They dive so deep underwater. Yeah, exactly. So, their surface time is quite little compared to the time that they're underwater. So there are some species of beaked whale that you will sight a little bit more. There's a lot of them, right? And some of these species are only known about, they've never been seen in the wild. They only know that these species exist because they'll wash up, maybe their body will wash up, so they're like stranded, but it's dead body, and so they identify them as a species, right? So that's how kind of rare and unknown some of these beaked whale species are. So on a recent project, we encountered a species of beaked whale that hadn't been encountered much in the, I say in the wilds, it hadn't been encountered much at sea. That was just super cool to witness a species of whale that doesn't have much recorded about it. So even like the behavior of this whale, the group number it associates in, this kind of of thing. Like there aren't many records of this, so getting to observe that for yourself at sea is quite special.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a cool one, and that was very recent. And another one was actually, I wasn't as Marine Mammal Observer, it was when I was as deck cadet. I was working on an anchor handler. We were working offshore Gabon in West Africa, and the job that we were doing at the time was we were supplying various oil platforms with, whatever they wanted. And this kind of meant a lot of time just waiting around until they called for us to come supply them with something. So, I'd do my watches, my duties, and then every day I'd make time to go out, and there's a area of deck on the bow that you could, just walk. It's kind of a crescent shape. I'd have my headphones on, I'd listen to some music in the sunshine, beautiful. And it would take you just maybe like 7 seconds to see a humpback whale, right? So you'd maybe see the blow or you'd see the whale breach, but it was just the time of year where they'd been migrating to the area, and they were just everywhere, humpback whales everywhere. But you wouldn't believe it. So the only time in my life that this has ever happened to me, I forgot the charger for my camera. So I take a camera with a good zoom lens, right?
I don't believe it happened then. You just
exactly.
Make it up. Yeah.
It's the only time I've ever forgotten to take my camera charger. And it's one of these ones you have to plug into the wall. Like, you can't charge it by USB or anything. And the beginning of the trip, okay, I was really lucky. I did see some whales at the beginning of the trip, and before we'd done the transit part to Gabon. So I did get some evidence of whales, but
I do believe you, Sarah. You don't have to justify it.
But yeah, that was amazing.
I don't know if you mentioned it already, but your background is in environmental science. What was it you did? A master's?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my undergrad was, geography, environmental science. And then I did a master's degree in environmental management. And I've done another, I said I love studying. So I've also done a master's degree in sustainable maritime operations. And that one was quite a cool one, because that kind of looked at the sustainability of the maritime operations, which also looks at the environmental side of things. So yeah.
Oh, that sounds awesome. But your passion for marine conservation comes from where? What is it? And what's the most rewarding part of being out there protecting marine wildlife? Is it all you can eat seafood? As a joke.
It's a good question. I honestly never imagined working at sea when I was young, right? I always knew that I cared about the environment, right? So I think I probably imagined working a terrestrial kind of environmental consultant.
But you told me a friend got you into it, and then you thought nothing of it, and then you end up getting sucked into it, and then you couldn't leave.
No, I fell into this kind of work completely by accident, which, probably to a lot of people who are desperately trying to get into the role would be like, what do you mean?
Damn
but
you.
Yeah, I'd had a friend who was doing this the acoustic monitoring remotely, and she suggested oh, you've got a relevant background, why don't you come along, they need people. And I was kind of like, oh, listening to whales, ha ha ha. And then after a while, I was living down in Cornwall, I didn't have a car, it was really difficult to get around for work, and this was quite close to us, and I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a go and see what's about. Started it, and it was, cool, interesting job, but I didn't imagine I'd stick with it. But, it was actually the people I was working with, they were all so passionate about marine mammals, marine conservation. And obviously it wasn't that I wasn't passionate about this. I'd definitely been more terrestrial kind of focused. So it was really just being around these people that got me deeper and deeper into it and more interested. And then that's how I got offshore. And really, I think it's just being at sea. It's the sunrise, sunsets, everything everything's different every day. Like maybe your routine is the same, but in terms of like the weather, the sunrise, sunset, the wildlife you might see, everything's different.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about that. I just
It's
love it to be out there.
routinely unroutine.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like, it kind of is like Pokemon, really, with marine wildlife. It's like you do want to
Oh, you
see
sound like a
things
poacher.
that you've not seen before, right?
Yeah. Pokemon Go at sea. Did you ever used to like the
Yeah.
music of Kate Bush?
Yeah,
Because there was
yeah.
a song I remember that my mum used to play on the old record, had whale noises at the beginning of it. I think it was called Moving. You heard that one?
No. Maybe if you sing it.
I can't remember. Well, I can't sing the whales part or Kate's.
Oh, the whale's part. Try
I, don't-
harder.
I just remember it being quite haunting to the start of a music track. But
Okay.
Kate Bush, man, she's a
Yeah, I'll
legend.
have to give that a listen. Yeah.
When you're doing your observations and you need to kind of
Mhm.
like use your air guns, you have like what you call an exclusion zone, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
have you ever had to stop an operation because an animal entered that exclusion
Mm.
zone?
Yeah, so it does depend where in the world you are, whether you're going to be stopping the operations. But yeah, I've certainly been on jobs where we've had shutdowns for animals entering the exclusion zone.
Is that quite common?
Yeah, it can be. Like it depends on a few things. It depends where you're working and if it's like just that time of year, there's going to be whales around. Also, sometimes you might be shutting down for dolphins. It might just be like a requirement of that country, or it might be just something the client has asked for. And dolphins, because they move quite quick, they will tend to approach the vessel more often when there is noise, and the idea is like, oh, they move quick, so they, if they're disturbed, they can get out of the way quick,
Yeah.
whereas it might not be quite the same with whales.
Yeah.
So when you do have to do shutdowns for dolphins, it's kind of like, oh no, there's dolphins coming, Yeah, and sometimes it can be the way. So you're just about to start operations, right? They've said, oh yeah, there's just a few minutes to go, or you're looking at your watch, okay, a few minutes, and then they're started. I'm gonna give them the all clear and say, okay, right, no animals, good to start. And then you'll see, some dolphins approach, or maybe some seal will pop up, and you're like, oh, damn, okay. And so you say, oh, just seen something, we're gonna have to delay. It depends also like what the guidelines are where you're working, whether, as soon as that animal has left this exclusion zone, in some places you're okay to just begin.
Yeah.
But in the UK, our guidelines say you've got to wait 20 minutes after that animal has left the exclusion zone or you've last seen it. So you have to delay by 20, or they have to delay starting by 20 minutes, right? So sometimes you've like counted down these 20 minutes, you've not seen that animal again, and you're right about to give the go ahead, and then they pop up again. Maybe it's, if you're stationary, the seal will come up in the exact same spot, or these dolphins will just approach again. It's like sometimes it's like they know and they're playing with you, right? Yeah. But yeah, like, so doing these shutdowns, it's like, in the past, you'd kind of get a bit more like questions and jokes like, oh, are you sure you know what you're doing? And this kind of thing. Sometimes a bit of bullying, but really, really, like, I've not experienced that too much. Most people I've worked with have been professional and understanding.
Yeah, there's a lot of legislation around what you do, right? You've got guidelines that you need to be following at all times because you're representing.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, like the company have like, agreed with this. They've signed to say like, okay, yeah, we need to abide by these regulations, this permit, or just this is what the client wants us to do. So they've said okay to it, right? But then I think the pressure can really be if it turns out that, like, these dolphins keep coming back, or there's more whales in the area that they anticipated. All these delays or shutdowns, like, that can get really expensive. That can get into like the millions for these companies, right? So I think as time goes by in those instances, that might be where you kind of might start to feel a bit more pressure. But I think things are changing. Like I think really like attitudes at sea are really changing. It maybe used to be a bit
Well, you
of
mean the
like
dolphins
bravado in the past. Yeah, the dolphins are starting to behave.
they're leaving you alone now.
No. I think like the crew, it used to be a bit of bravado, right? I think in the past, like, oh yeah, dolphins, oh, marine mammals, this kind of thing. Like you used to kind of see us more as like these hippies, are just there to shut down everything. But now people are actually starting to be like, oh well, yeah, of course I care about marine wildlife. I don't want to harm like the underwater environment. It's important. So
cool
attitudes are changing that way. Exactly, it's cool to care. Yeah.
Have you seen that new documentary? It's not that new now. I don't know how new it will be by the time this comes out, but the documentary David Attenborough's just done, Ocean.
Oh no, I was at sea during that, and I've just been waiting for like the right moment to like have a cinematic viewing of it. So no, it's actually a really, really poor show to say that I've not seen it yet.
Well, I watched it. I went to see it at it's an independent cinema in Camden, and I was one of about 4 people in the whole cinema towards the end of its run in cinemas, and it is really good. But you haven't seen it, so I don't want to spoil it for you and those who might want to watch it. But do you ever get annoyed with David Attenborough because he's just so wonderful a human being? Do you think, oh, fuck. Yeah, oh God.
Yeah,
Do me a favor, Dave. Stop being so.
Yeah,
making us all look bad.
Stop being so perfect, and yeah, exactly. Definitely, like jealousy, right? Everyone wishes that they could be David Attenborough. Everyone wishes they could travel the world and experience all the wonderful things that he experiences.
Do you think he's got some skeletons in the closet, maybe? That's why.
I don't even want to think that. Too many things have come out about too many people that I used to once like, so I can't have that about David Attenborough.
I heard he's got a stuffed white tiger on his mantelpiece, and he's called it Greta.
Oh my goodness.
It's just a rumor, but yeah. No, anyway, so we haven't seen that, so we can't really discuss it, and I don't want to spoil it for you. But let's see. What about strange stories? Have you got any strange stories that kind of swim to the surface? So I did there.
So I didn't get to see it myself, but I was on a project where everyone swore they saw a UFO. Yeah,
and they all had the camera that they didn't charge.
Exactly. And there was a while where we were working like deep North Atlantic, and I was kind of scared. Like you could either go this downstairs route, which would take a bit longer, you had to go downstairs, walk along the deck and up again, or you could just walk this really quick route outside. And I was working the night shift, so if I was going across to the mess room to grab something, it'd be quickest to walk outside. But it was dark and I didn't want to because I was scared of the alien abduction or something. Completely irrational, but anyway. And then there was one time where I thought I'd seen something in the sky, but I was just like an absolute fool. I think I'd been working a really small vessel and I'd taken the seasickness tablets, and in hindsight they were not the best ones to take. I don't take them anymore because they made me like really drowsy to the point that I felt like drugged kind of thing. I was looking out the back and I was like, oh my God, like what is that keeps moving about in the sky? It's like darting about up and down all over the place, this light. And I was like, that's crazy. What is this? And then I realized, it's just like a planet or something, right? And it's because the vessel was like rocking about so much in the sea. And I was just like a little bit drugged from this seasickness tablet. So yeah, be careful. Your seasickness tablets, test them out before you go to sea. Should not be me.
mix with your druggedness and the light in the sky. There's like a heartbeat in the sky, skywriting.
Yeah, it was just like this little thing just darting about the place, the night sky, and I was like, wow, that's gotta be something. I'm seeing something here. No, just like a planet or a star or something.
You were like, I'm tripping balls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Have you
Uh-huh.
had any run-ins out there, like with those
Ooh.
guys who picked up Captain Phillips, anything like that? The
No, no,
pirates.
I've not, and that's for the best,
You
really.
sounded
Um,
disappointed.
no, I know I'm certainly not disappointed by that.
Fine.
Um,
Have you ever mistaken anything or something completely ridiculous for a whale or a dolphin?
When it comes to the seismic vessels, I was saying like they tow a lot of equipment off the back of the vessel. They've got the not just the air guns, but they've also got all these hydrophone streamers that
Yeah.
like go like a really wide spread out the back of the vessel and like kilometers back behind the vessel, and they keep these streamers like separated wide, held open by these things that they call paravane doors. They're kind of like these big, essentially buoys right at the edge. And even though this equipment is in the water all the time, right? Sometimes you'll look back and you'll see like the top mark off of that, and you'll be like, "Oh my god, what is that?" And you'll get so excited, like, "Yo, there's something right there!" And then like you're like, "Oh no, it's literally like that piece of equipment that's been in the water for like the past several months." And I've been doing this job for so many years. Like, how could I be fooled by that? So yeah, things like that. Sometimes you'll unfortunately see like marine debris, like some rubbish in the sea, some balloon or something, and you'll be like staring at that for ages, like, oh, it's shiny, what is that? Is that a marine mammal? When it comes to the acoustic monitoring, right? So I don't think I described how we go about that. So we have our own hydrophone cable which we put in the water that'll ideally be towed like 100 odd meters behind the vessel.
Yeah.
And we have some software so that and obviously hardware to process the acoustic data, and some software so we can visualize any vocalizations that the animals are making on our software, right? So maybe
When you say visualize these
yeah,
echoes, what do they look like? I'm thinking of like the old
yeah, yeah.
Windows, like when you had the visualizer on the old Windows media player.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I don't know.
somewhat. So we have two main types of vocalizations, right? So there's echolocation clicks, and we have the software uses PalmGuard. It's free, open access. Anyone can use PalmGuard with audio recordings, right? So on this click detector, basically it's scrolling through time, and you'll see these like little blobs appear, and these blobs are clicks, right? So a lot of the noise that you'll see will just be false clicks. It'll just be like noise that's been like picked up from other source in the sea, or just like electrical interference kind of thing. But basically we can investigate, we can click on these clicks, and then we've got some other modules which will be able to show us like what the frequency of this click is, where the peak energy lies, and just from like training and experience, you'll be able to say, oh, that's a dolphin echolocation click. And then the way they echolocate, right, it'll appear as a click train, so you'll see a series of these clicks in close proximity, and then that's another good clue that it's a dolphin echolocating, or also can be a sperm whale, because they have the echolocation clicks too, which appear very different to how dolphins do. So that's one element of it, the click detector. And then we also have a spectrogram. So in our spectrogram, that's scrolling through time, and we've got a frequency scale, and we'll see the whale or dolphin. So if it's dolphin, we refer to them as whistles, and then whales, it's can be moans and calls.
Yeah.
So we'll see these vocalizations appearing, and it can be, when it comes to whistles, it kind of looks just like some squiggles on this spectrogram, or with calls, it might be kind of more of a thicker, kind of like short, stubby, like upsweeping kind of
And what would
thing.
what would that sound like exactly, Sarah?
Yeah, okay. So obviously, as you mentioned, we were wearing headphones too. Uh,
Trying to get you to do an impression.
oh my goodness. I have friends who can, but I can't. What's really cool with like the sperm whales, if anyone takes the time to have a look, listen to sperm whale clicks, they're super cool. It just sounds like someone's like knocking on wood, and then as they're getting like closer to their prey, they'll buzz like even quicker, like or sorry, they'll click quicker, and it'll be like kind of appear as like this buzz, and it's just so cool to listen to. There's a website, Dossits, Dosits, and they've got basically like a bank of marine mammal sounds, and that's really cool. I think you might be able to see it like as a spectrogram as well. So if anyone did go on there, they'd have an idea of like what kind of thing that I'm seeing and hearing hypothetically if I were to detect some of these marine mammals.
Is it like a Reddit thread and the coolest sounds have been upvoted to the top? You just got to go looking
quite, but that's probably how that came about. Yeah. No, I mean it's like I think all the marine mammals are listed, and you can like click, you can click blue whale, and
you can click the clicks.
The sounds and see. Yeah, you can click the clicks. Yeah, click the clicks.
What's the oddest superstition or tradition that you've come across at sea with the crew?
I definitely have seen like piles of salt lying around. I'm not quite sure about that one. I think it might be an Italian one, but so sorry if I offend any Italians by saying that.
Are you sure it was salt?
Yeah. That's got me thinking. It's probably like the ones you probably are familiar with, like no whistling on the ship.
No,
you don't talk about fog. You don't mention fog, because if you talk about fog, that will bring fog, right? And yeah,
I've not heard any of them.
No, you've not heard those.
Yeah,
okay.
We're too busy calling bingo for that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess this is more of like a, like in the bridge kind of.
This is more nitty gritty seafaring.
Yeah, navigation kind of worries. Yeah, the old superstitions.
I wouldn't normally ask that question to somebody that worked on cruise ships, because they're so busy, they haven't got time for that sort of level of tradition or superstition.
For worries. Yeah.
You mentioned in the future wanting to work on like a research vessel as like a dream gig. Was there like a dream project or a mission in particular that you kind of fantasize about?
Well, I think probably everyone wants to go down to Antarctic, right? So certainly that at some point it would be really cool. I think what's nice about research vessels is if I was on board a research vessel but working as an officer, obviously I'd be in that role, but it'd be really cool to be like surrounded by scientists collecting data that I'd have like a bit of an understanding of, just from like having an environmental background. So I think that's why research vessels in general would be like a super cool vessel to get to sail on in the future. I'm really open to the idea of volunteering. So, like the hospital ships. I've like looked into that in the past. Yeah, and there's some other as well. Actually, there's a really cool one that I saw when I was in port one time in Namibia, and it was the vessel was, I think, the Logos Hope, and the company, they have other vessels, right? But it's a library ship. And so the ship and some others in like, owned by whichever charity this is, it goes into different ports around the world and offers basically like a book fair, like a library for, I don't know if it's children, adults. Anyway, like I just discovered this by chance one day just by seeing this ship, and I was like, oh my goodness, like how wholesome. Everyone they take on board is a volunteer from all around the world, and I think maybe people stay on board for quite a long time, but like what more of a wholesome way could you live volunteering than going around the world supplying books to young children? Like it sounds super cool.
Just to confirm, it's not just the library on the ship. It's not like you get on board and you get into the library and then you're like, wow, and as soon as you make an explanation there's a librarian in the corner going, shh. They actually take the books off the ship and they give them out to people, and they're like, "Hey, I'll read about this. Hey, I'll read about that."
Yeah, probably. Like, I mean, I obviously I've not experienced it myself, so I couldn't say for sure. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
it seems they open the
there's
ship to people, and they come on and get to view the books, take the books, this kind of thing.
that's cool.
Yeah.
What would you
So
do if you
so
were going to volunteer on mercy ships? If you thought
um
about it.
as an officer, yeah, I looked in the past volunteering with them, and obviously they have quite a lot of specialized roles, right? And
Yeah.
there weren't really like I didn't really have anything that I could kind of slot myself into in the past. But being an officer, it's also like I decided to do the training to become an officer for like various reasons, but in part, like part of it kind of was like, oh, I want to go on these ships as a volunteer. Like, oh well, if I was on as an officer, I'd for sure, not for sure, get the chance to do it because I'm sure there's a lot of competition to get on these ships to volunteer, right? But
Mm.
it's actually allows me to have a skill and qualification to do this kind of thing. Yeah, loads of cool volunteerships out there.
One way to keep yourself indefinitely at sea is just to keep volunteering.
Yeah.
Is there a chance or any possibility that AI could potentially steal your job?
Yeah. So the way I kind of got into this role to start with, as I said, I was doing like the remote acoustic monitoring. So even as far back as like this was 12 years ago, but I know they did it from further back. But even before then, they've been trialing taking people off the ships and having them like on shore, signal gets sent back, and you're like acoustically monitoring from shore. We also did some research and development kind of projects where they're using cameras to like just pan at the sea, and they had even like thermal cameras, that kind of thing. And you sit in the office and you'd be watching to see if there was marine wildlife, basically like how feasible that is. So even 10, 15 years ago, this kind of thing was already being looked at. And certainly I'm hearing more and more about this kind of like remote acoustic monitoring happening. There's some unmanned survey vessels where they'll just do like a MMO will go and just do like a pre-watch before the survey vessel goes out. And then they'll do the pre-watch, and then it'll go out and it'll do it work. And if it has any problems, if it breaks down, they stop. They call the MMO back down. They do another pre-watch, and then so the MMO will just be like doing a couple of days of work rather than being on board the vessel, being there for like 30 days, where maybe they're only really required to be there for like a pre-watch, right? So like, before the operations start. And there are definitely some technologies using satellite to like track whales and this kind of thing. So yeah, I like it certainly in the future, like it's getting more in that direction.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, as long as it's being done, and if it's being done more effectively than humans can do it, then great.
And if you can be the
if
one,
not, then
you can be the one feeding it the prompts, but you can still be doing your job
yeah,
more
that'd be cool.
effectively, then it's good. Then it's good.
Yeah.
What's the most challenging thing about working at sea for you personally?
So for me, I like my own space sometimes. Like I think everyone does, right? But I'm definitely one of those people who can be like really sociable, this kind of thing. But I need to like recharge that social battery, right? So I quite like to like be up in the morning, and before I have to really go interact with anyone, like I love to go get a good strong coffee, like to take it back to my cabin, get myself ready for the day, have like an hour without any people, and then I can like do my breakfast or whatever, I can get on with the day. But certainly like depends on what kind of vessel you're on, how many people are on board, your team. sometimes you'll be sharing a cabin. Sometimes, like, the last ship I was on, for example, like the mess room was only open during breakfast hours. So if you wanted a tea, I mean, not just breakfast hours, meal times, but if you wanted a tea or coffee outside of like these hours, you couldn't get one, right? So I couldn't do that. I couldn't have my routine of going to get my coffee and waking up, that kind of thing. So yeah, for me, it's like time to myself. But I think I managed to like achieve that by taking a bit of time to like I was saying, get my headphones on, go take a
I
walk
was just
around
thinking
outside, and
You're like,
that's
you put your
that's my
headphones in,
space to myself.
you put your headphones in, and you just say, "I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm acoustic monitoring. I can't
Yeah,
talk."
yeah, yeah. That's the time I get to like have my own bit of space, my own bubble. That's the most challenging part for me. It's like how people sit down, have breakfast, and smile and be sociable. Like I don't know.
Oh my God, you just
It's not
opened.
me.
That was my old job. You're literally
Yeah.
sitting down at the Lido. Oh my God, I haven't thought about that for years. I remember that.
Yeah, man, you're a special person to be able to
I know, but I didn't
to do
enjoy it.
that.
I'm not a morning person, Sarah, and I just remember
Yeah.
mornings on board when I was in my early years of basically doing a lot of drinking. You
Hmm.
kind of it's just a part of the culture at sea. I'm sure it is in many ways for yourself sometimes,
Hmm.
but certainly in your earlier days, right?
So, fun fact is that on most merchant vessels, which like the category of vessels that I'll be working on,
You
are
can't drink.
completely dry. Like, yeah, yeah, like a zero tolerance for like alcohol. So, yeah, no, like you basically won't see alcohol in these ships at all. Like people are really good about it. I mean, if it is happening, for sure, they're not letting people know that it's happening. So, yeah, it was actually the only time I've really experienced it is the research vessel I was just on, right? Like, yeah, man, scientists go wild. They can drink, they can party. They've got some stories for sure. And when I did as cadet, I did do a few months on a cruise ship, and that was eye opening to me, right? Seeing people go to the crew bar. So yeah, so I don't really have much experience of that on a ship. Yeah.
No. Well, that's good to know that they're entrusting you to be sober all the time. I guess it's less important to know that the person who's delivering your afternoon quiz is completely sober, teetotal. But if you were hanging the next morning from a heavy night the night before and you were up at the
Mm.
Lido, you were having yourself some breakfast, just before you have that first mouth-watering bite of, buttered toast with some beans on it or whatever, and then a passenger
Mm.
comes out and says, "Oh, hello, Sam, how are you this morning?" And you're just like, ah. Give me a moment,
Can only
Doris.
imagine.
Let me just take the 10 minutes that I need here. But what was I going to ask you to tie in with that last one? If you could give one piece of advice to someone who's never worked at sea but
Oh
is
yeah.
thinking about it, what would it be?
So I definitely say take things with you, or like prepare something, like in my case it's audiobooks and podcasts and this kind of thing. But whatever your hobbies are, take them with you. I think mostly just to pass the time. If you need to pass the time, you might not may need to. You might be really busy. You might have loads of people to talk to, this kind of thing. But I think it's also like just to kind of retain a part of your own identity, your own self, really. Because I think when you're in amongst people all the time and you don't get much space and time to yourself, it's like you start to miss the things that kind of like make you you.
Hmm.
And I think if you bring something with you, some hobbies, something from home, like you can kind of feel that connection with like yourself.
That's very good. Do you like do knitting as well or something?
Oh no, I wish I had some cooler hobbies. No, like for
I say
sure, like
knitting,
I
and you
work
say you wish you had a cool hobby like that.
I've worked with loads of people who like knit and crochet
Crochet.
on board, and friends who take their ukuleles and stuff. I've started so many hobbies and then I never get so far in them. I do Duolingo, whether that can count as a hobby or not.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a hobby, to be fair, language learning,
Well,
but
which
I
language are you
have a
trying to
4 year
learn?
streak now. Oh my goodness. Don't test me. Spanish.
Un poquito.
Ibikito, yeah. So I've actually got a 4 year streak, and it would be longer, but the Wi-Fi on one of the ships I was working on cut out, so I lost I think like 2 years. So I would really have like 6 year streak, but I lost it. So
Did you have any funny nicknames you got on board?
I haven't personally, but I have a friend who we call Seal Fingers, and it sounds
Real
ridiculous,
fingers.
but I've introduced Seal Fingers. Yeah, so I've known him for several years now, and this whole time I think
Seals
I've
don't
known him
have
as Seal
fingers.
Fingers. Yeah, I'll explain. I'll explain. So, if you get bitten by a seal, you have the chance of developing this like bacterial infection, which they name seal finger, right? And it's really really bad. You need like super strong antibiotics to deal with this bacterial infection. And what came about was this friend of mine who's telling one of his non-marine biologist friends about this condition, and
Oh.
he kind of laughed like, "Haha, seal finger." And I don't know why I decided to just start calling my friend Seal Fingers, but that's his name to me now. Like I see him and I'm like, oh, hey, Seal Fingers. And we'll be in public with like, new people, on board a ship. And I'm like, oh, Seal Fingers. And I'd like to think that other people now call him Seal Fingers because of me. But
You're
yeah.
hoping.
Yeah.
I see. I didn't know that was a thing. Getting like a serious
Yeah.
infection from having being
Yeah, yeah,
bitten.
yeah.
But what
Yeah,
about?
there's actually like a training course that a lot of like marine biologists and just members of the general public do with the British Divers Marine Life Rescue. Is that what it is? Anyway, Marine Mammal Medic course is what it is.
Right.
And it's basically like if a dolphin strands on the beach, something like this, or you see a seal and it's injured on the beach, you can like know what to do to like be able to assist in rescuing that animal, right? So they will give the people that they train a kind of like a written letter to take. If they get bitten by a seal, you take this written letter to like the doctor or the pharmacy or the hospital with you, because it's for a type of antibiotic that is like, just you won't be prescribed for that unless you've got a real good reason, because it's like a real strong antibiotic. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a pretty bad one if you get bitten by a seal, apparently.
It's like that old nautical saying, if you get bitten by a seal in the middle of the ocean, but there's no acoustic monitor around to hear it, did it really happen?
Yeah, did it really happen? Yeah. And you're a goner.
What's the trickiest part about doing that in the job itself in like rough
Yeah.
seas? What's the hardest part of doing
Yeah.
that job?
So if you're doing the visual monitoring, right? So if you have poor weather conditions, it gets really difficult to sight anything. So even if it's like, you've got some glare on the sea surface, it's going to be really difficult to spot a marine mammal surfacing in that spot of glare, even with some good sunglasses, right? So that's even in like good conditions. There's like it can be tricky. But then when it comes to if you've got some wind, right? There's a whale blow, and the wind might just like blow that away too quick before you've had the time to like scan and turn around and see that blow, right? And like whale blows are a really big identifier, like, oh, there's a marine mammal there. If you have a little bit of swell, even like 0.5 meters of swell, you might easily miss, like it might just be like a dolphin or a porpoise, really tiny, surfacing behind this swell, and it's obscured, you don't see it. And then the same as like when it gets a bit choppy, a bit rough, like all of these like little like waves, they start looking like the dorsal fin of a dolphin, right? So it certainly gets really difficult with the weather to be able to sight. When it comes to the acoustic monitoring, what's quite good about that is if you've deployed your hydrophone cable well, it should be reasonably deep in the water, 10 meters depth, and that should be below like the top kind of like surface wave action, so it shouldn't be too affected by like these big swells. It will be a little bit because the way the ship is moving is going to pull the cable up and down the water, so it's not quite affected in the same way by the weather. But the downside of the acoustic monitoring is not all marine mammals vocalize all the time. A lot of them vocalize for different reasons, right? So there might be a whale right there, it's just not making any noise, so you can't hear it. So in an ideal world, you'll have both visual and acoustic at the same time. So it's definitely challenging. Like at nighttime, obviously, we just have the acoustic monitoring. Like sometimes you might have thermal imaging, like camera for that, or like, you know, thermal binoculars. That's kind of starting to become like a bit more frequent, but it's definitely not quite there yet. Yeah.
In an ideal world, you would like calm waters and really talkative mammals.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. Please.
Can I ask, so going back just a little bit, what inspired you to take the big step of doing your cadetship after already being established in your field? Sort of going backwards, isn't it?
Yeah, so it is. It's kind of starting at the bottom of like a new career ladder kind of thing. For me, it really was like my love of the sea. But the longer I spent working on ships at sea, the more interest I began to develop in ships themselves, you know, seeing different ships when we're going out of ports and thinking about like the different maritime operations. So that was definitely like a big element of it. I just began to become like fascinated by it. Another side of it is in the past, a lot of the work that we do offshore as marine mammal observers, it was kind of like intertwined and dependent on the oil and gas industry, right? So if the oil and gas industry was kind of in like a decline or a downturn, there would be a lot less work available. And then you might start to there'd be a bit of a squeeze for the jobs, and there just wouldn't be enough regular work for everyone. So it used to be kind of like that. There used to be lots of up and down. But nowadays it is a bit different because there's loads of the wind farm work. There's so many wind farms going up, especially like around the UK and globally. But it's good for us here in the UK because now a lot of the work that we do is like associated with these wind farm construction projects. But yeah, so it was kind of a way for me to be like, well, I like working at sea and I always want to be able to work at sea. So maybe I train as a ship's officer. And also like by being a ship's officer, what's really cool is like you also can do loads of jobs ashore associated with the maritime industry, and like the experience you have from doing the cadetship helps you like step into these roles. So if the day came that I decided like, you know, I want to work ashore, maybe I decide, oh, I want a family and it might be a bit challenging to be at sea too, I can do that.
Well, yeah, but also like your background in like environmental science and geography, how would you say that gives you like a different perspective compared to like other officers? Because they don't all have that in their background.
Yeah. It's a difficult one. I think something really bad that happens when you have studied like environmental sciences, environmental management, etc., is like you actually, instead of like seeing like the opportunity for hope and change, you can kind of just start seeing like, you know, all the bad things that are happening. You can see like all the consumption and like pollution and this kind of thing. And I do find a lot of the time like I am just seeing like, you know, wastefulness. But then again, it's like it's wastefulness that just can't be avoided, right? Like, you know, you're always going to need to have oily rags, right? Like rags that you use, and you know, this material is going to be, you know, discarded. Like you just need that for the operation of a ship. You're always going to need to paint a ship. You're always going to have some like, you know, like flecks of paint that are going to end up getting like, you know, blown overboard, right? You can't help these things, but like being someone who is like knowledgeable of the like environmental impacts, I see these things and I'm like, oh, they're kind of unavoidable right now, but they're just like part of this.
But they're great at you.
Yeah, like I just a lot of things I'm just like, oh, it's so wasteful. But unfortunately, like, we do need to transport things by vessels, and it's not avoidable. So I think for me, I see a lot of these things, and I think probably other people, like, they won't be like nitpicking and looking for these things. I think that's mainly what the difference probably is. Yeah, I love my sunrise sunsets, but that's a pretty general thing. Almost everyone loves a sunrise and sunset, and it's quite nice. A lot of people will be interested in marine mammals, marine wildlife too. And when they know that if I was there as cadet and they know that, I've done this job as Marine Mammal Observer, the officers will be like, oh, there's a whale, and, get to like talk about what kind of whales are going to be in the area. Whether or not they want to hear about what whales are in the area, I probably bore the people I work with this information kind of thing.
Yeah. What would you say is the next big milestone for you in your adventure or your career at sea? Is there something you're hoping for to achieve, or a stepping stone, something that you're basically pushing for?
Yeah, I mean, first thing, obviously, I need to pass that oral exam, and then after that, like, I definitely need to start getting that experience as a third officer. The path that I'm going to take with that, I'm not quite sure, because a lot of people will go to a company, be hired, and work, steady trips with a company, right? I do want that, but I also really love the marine mammal life. So it's going to be difficult to kind of give that up. Maybe I could work freelance and I could kind of do a bit of both. One thing that I still need to get done, I remember I'd messaged you when I was down in London earlier in the year. And when I was down there, I was doing a training course to be a fishery observer. So this is something that I've wanted to do for several years, and just the timing had never been right with it. But that's definitely something I'm hoping to get a trip in during the next year, and that'd be a few months on a krill fishing vessel, and basically as a scientific observer, so collecting data on like the actual krill that's caught, like the size of it, and male, female. Also, if there's any bycatch, and doing some wildlife observations, birds and marine mammals, this kind of thing. It's kind of like a contentious fishery, the krill fishery. It's just the location is quite like environmentally sensitive. Lots of other wildlife there, marine mammals, this kind of thing. So maybe it's not for some people to go down there and see it for yourself, kind of thing. But it's just an experience I want to have, to try out something that's like a little bit different and a little more hands-on, because a lot of the work I've done over the years has been, it has been observing. It's maybe dealing with a bit of like equipment for the acoustic monitoring, but not often getting to kind of be hands-on with a microscope, kind of thing. So hopefully I can get a trip in doing that over the next year.
Fingers crossed for you, Sarah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Last question. Well, it's two actually, three. They're short. They're really short. Was there anything you wanted to promote? Any charity or business that you're affiliated with?
Not
you don't want to promote your job
no.
too much, otherwise it's more competition for you.
I know, yeah. It's a terrible job. Don't do it.
But saying that, for listeners who dream of a life out at sea, So what's the one thing you wish you'd known before you started? Because if you gave some advice, but if you could go back to your former self and say to yourself, "Oh, you won't get this," obviously, your own free time. Is there anything else that you think you pass on in terms of the stuff that you'd learned? And that is my final question to you, Sarah. Don't worry.
I'd say bring snacks. Bring snacks. That's important, right?
Most important thing was snacks. Okay.
That's that one. Also,
that's fair.
I would say just be confident in yourself and collect evidence, right? If, like, relation to my job, right? And probably a lot of jobs that you do, if you are ever going to have someone who is questioning you on like, did that really happen? Blah, 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 blah. Like
keep notes.
Make sure you've got your evidence to back it up, right? For me in my job, it'll be just making sure my reporting is correct, got my times correct, and like keeping on top, checking my watch, this kind of thing, got things written down. It'll be taking photographs of any marine mammals or screenshots and this kind of thing, like, know your job and be confident in it, and you shouldn't run into any troubles.
That's very good advice. Now, on that, I think it's pretty good to make sure that when I get off this call that I back up this, because I'd hate to make a mistake. I'd hate to make a mistake and delete the episode by accident, which has happened once.
This could be a practice run. I'll probably do a lot better next time round.
Well,
this is a warm up.
We'll see how DeckTales goes in the future, and obviously, once you've been an officer at sea for some years, who knows? You might have a whole new I might
have some more scandalous stories to tell.
I might, by that point, I'll have an old grey beard, even longer and more withered than this guy in front of you now. And you'll have even more stories to share with us. But Sarah, thank you so much for coming on and, coming on. For joining me on DeckTales and sharing some of your highlights, your experiences. And I wish you all the best with your studies.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here.
It's been an absolute pleasure, my dear. I'm going to let you go now, but we'll say goodbye and enjoy the rest of your week.
You too. See ya.
Right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice, isn't it? It just, it just makes everything better. I don't care if it's cold.
Is that a word?
Yeah.
Nice?
Yeah, I think so.
Unprecedentedly nice.
Yeah.
I've
always lived on the south coast of England.
Yeah.
I sort of went to University of Brighton, stuck around here. Don't know if I'll be here forever, but
you're well placed being on the coastline, especially as a cruise enthusiast. In the Thames, as I used to work on the ship. I was just wondering if I could nip on board, say hello, see if crew on board that I wrote that might, be about. And it was just a flat out no.
I think they have to know so far in advance, don't they?
Yeah, but it was one of those things where
it was worth a go.
There, so
yeah,
it was worth a go. But
cruising myself, but I can imagine.
It's with seafood sauce. Would you like some Parma ham? Yes, I would.
Yeah, whatever you think of.